Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World War III, episode number 4. There was something big that happened either yesterday or the day before with Donald Trump getting censored, unfortunately, off of YouTube. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to explain why, at least for the foreseeable future, we will not be able to shed this crazy censorship that's happening on social media, and it's not because these media platforms have major control over us. It's because of human nature. I'm going to be explaining all of that. I've got some updated maps on the Ukraine-Russian situation that I found off of BBC last night. That's the news network, not anything else. That's the news network. But you guys can see Russia's advance into Ukraine. It is continuing. The heaviest shilling happening in Kyiv right now since the war started. Those are the reports from yesterday. So just going to throw those graphs up. But the big news, and I've talked about it a lot, it's censorship on social media. And Donald Trump did something very unique. I don't know if this was yesterday, March 11th. I think it was actually March 10th. I never saw this video before it got taken down. It was only up for 24 hours and then it got taken down. It had over 5 million views. But Donald Trump did a podcast with the Nelk guys, Nelk guys. He did a podcast with them. And the craziest thing about this is the Nelk boys, which are a Canadian-based YouTube channel, their main thing that they do is pranks, meaning their audience is extremely young. And you want to talk about World War III between Russia and Ukraine, this is World War III for YouTube, because I know how YouTube operates, and Donald Trump, going on this Nelk podcast with all these young people, the potential for young people to be influenced by Donald Trump, by Republicans, oh my God, they had to have been fuming. And then, of course, they removed it. You guys can see YouTube has deleted the Nelk Boys podcast with Donald Trump. It had 5 million views in 24 hours. Apparently, Dana White had said, listen, Trump, go on this podcast. And it was very smart because this is a very young audience. These guys do pranks. They've got probably an audience, 17, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. These are young people that are going to be influenced by Donald Trump. And that is DEFCON 5. Or DEFCON 4 for YouTube and for any social media, Donald Trump influencing young people. It's one thing if Donald Trump goes on, an older person's podcast, even Joe Rogan. There's going to be a lot of older listeners. This is all young people being influenced by Donald Trump. The other quick thing I wanted to say, I heard this interview was only 30 minutes. I got to call Trump out on that. If you go on a podcast, it's got to be at least an hour and a half, 2 hours. Come on. 30 minutes is an interview. But apparently it was 30 minutes. And you know what I was thinking? I think what the Nelk boys should do is every video they upload should just be more Donald Trump podcasts and just see and just expose YouTube to the point where they're just going to remove everything that's related to Donald Trump. That gets big, that gets a lot of views, 5 million views in 24 hours. They're just going to remove anything that's related for Donald Trump. And if I was the Nelk boys, I know Trump wouldn't do this because apparently, I don't know how long the podcast was, but they were saying it was only like 35 minutes or something. If I was the Nelk boys, I'd be like to Trump, let's expose YouTube. Let's do another podcast, drum it up. The next video we do is another podcast with you. I know Trump's a busy guy, but seriously, this would expose how ridiculous YouTube is. And guys, because I think YouTube would just keep banning the podcast and saying, I think they said it was misinformation. What that means is anytime Donald Trump is going to be on YouTube, that gets a lot of views, we're going to ban it. To where he can influence young people, we're going to ban it and we're going to make up something. Anytime Donald Trump talks politics on YouTube, we're going to ban him and say, oh, it's misinformation. It's just an excuse. Donald Trump could have went on that podcast with those guys and recited the ABCs 100 times and they still would have banned it. We all know it. We all understand it. And I think the thing we have to understand with YouTube, and I love YouTube, guys, I upload normally a video a day on YouTube. I'm uploading. It is my favorite social media. It has to be. I upload a video a day, sometimes 2 videos a day, sometimes 2. So I'm someone that uses YouTube a lot, but we have to understand YouTube, unfortunately, does not believe in the First Amendment. And it's clear from this, and the sad thing is, they don't have to. They do not have to abide by the First Amendment. They are not breaking any laws. They are, according to the government, a private company. So they can do what they want and they can ban who they want and they can say it's misinformation or whatever. But I know, if I know YouTube, you want to talk about Donald Trump, it's one thing if he goes on an older person, like he goes on Bill O'Reilly, right, with a bunch of old white people who are already Trump supporters. You go on a podcast like the Nelk Podcast. These kids are all young. These guys are pranksters. They're getting so many young kids. Donald Trump has the ability, a Republican has the ability to influence young guys. And really, people will say this is about Donald Trump. I just think it's become kind of culturally acceptable to ban Donald Trump off things. This is more Republican versus Democrat to me. I think the reason they were able to ban Trump, again, because it's more culturally accepted. Trump has already been banned off of Twitter. You know, his account's gotten banned off of Facebook, Twitter, all of them. They purged him just like they did Alex Jones. But it's like, it's acceptable. But this is really, to me, a Republican-Democrat thing. They don't want Republican voices speaking to young people. And as an independent, I find that extremely problematic, silencing people. And again, guys, I can't go out here and say, oh, I dislike YouTube when I'm uploading a video a day on YouTube. I can't do that. But what I can say is it's unfortunate that YouTube, you know, does not believe in the First Amendment when it comes to their platform. You know, maybe they believe in it when it comes to, you know, overall America, freedom of speech, but when it comes to their platform, they do not believe in the First Amendment. It's unfortunate. I still have to like YouTube because I always watch YouTube videos and things like that, but seeing something like this happen where Donald Trump on this podcast told the guys, like, this video is going to get banned. You know, he basically daring YouTube to ban the video. I don't know, again, I don't know how long the video was, but if it was a 35-minute video, what could have Trump really, you know, it's just like, come on, guys. Like, why do we keep doing this? Again, we're at a point where it's like, oh, it's misinformation, it's this, it's that. They had to use something to ban him off of everything. They used January 6th. Now they're saying he's spreading misinformation. It's anytime Donald Trump talks politics, and especially when it reaches a young target audience, 5 million views in 24 hours for this podcast. And the Nelk guys with a bunch of young kids, young American kids, yeah, that's DEFCON 4 for YouTube. And again, it's a situation, unfortunately, YouTube on their platform, they do not believe in the First Amendment. I can't really do, you know, no one can really do anything about it. It's their decision. It's their call on what they want to ban. And the reason they were so rapid and so quick to ban this was because of the following that these guys have that Trump was doing the podcast with. Very young following. You know, that's a Republican that can influence a lot of young people, and that is very, very bad for YouTube. So, really sad situation. We keep seeing it with the censorship. Now, on to my bigger point, because I've thought about this for a while. I've thought about, can we create a social media that is truly independent, truly neutral, just like Twitter or just like YouTube? You know, there's other alternatives out there, like a Rumble for YouTube. You know, Trump has his own thing, although, and like Trump's new True Social thing, because Trump's name is attached to it, Democrats will never join it. So that's just not an option. The problem we're going to run into, the only way you will get liberals to leave Twitter or YouTube or something like that is if you create a superior product. You can't just create something that mirrors Twitter but says, listen, we believe in the First Amendment, we're going to do everything right. The only way you get banned is if you make threats. We're not going to ban you because of your political affiliation. With liberals, there's no incentive to leaving Twitter. So if someone comes along and you see all these disenfranchised Republicans looking for a new social media app, someone smart, and they say, listen, we're just going to create a truly neutral, totally free speech. We're going to advertise it. It's free speech. Yes, we have guidelines. I believe you should have guidelines, but you should not be getting banned off of these apps because you're a Republican or, you said something that is a conspiracy theory. The only way you should get banned is if you are like threatening someone or suspend them or something like that. That's the only way you should get banned or suspended, if you're threatening to kill people, things like that. The problem, you're never going to get liberals to leave Twitter. Why would they leave Twitter? So what's going to happen, even if you have a truly free speech oriented social media platform that rivals Twitter. You're going to have all the Republicans joining it, and it's just going to be known as a Republican platform. And then Twitter's even going to go more to the left. So we're going to be divided by social media. We already kind of are. You think of Rumble, you're thinking more of a Republican type YouTube, when really it's just an alternative. But there's no reason for liberals to leave YouTube because they're not getting banned or anything like that. So, there's no reason for them to go to Rumble. There's no incentive. So the problem is you're going to get Republicans moved maybe to a different app. We've seen it happen before. Parler was another example, although its interface was horrible. But you get something that can actually rival Twitter. Republicans will move to it, say it's a First Amendment. They're not going to ban us, okay. But then the liberals, there's no incentive for them to leaving Twitter. Why would they leave Twitter when they've got it so good on Twitter right now? Twitter's a really good social media app. I'm not hating on Twitter, but I'm saying there is a bias that Twitter has, just like YouTube, just like Facebook, just like all these other things. The problem is you're going to get the Republicans to leave. The liberals are going to stay, and we're going to be divided kind of like we are already by social media apps, because Republicans have an incentive to leave because they view themselves as being shut down, as being censored by these big media tech corporations, whereas liberals, there's no incentive. Why would I leave Twitter to go to a new social media when we're not the ones being silenced? Why would we leave? There's no incentive. So you would have to make a better app, an app that stimulates people's better, kind of like TikTok did, where some of these kids probably were spending hours on Twitter. Now they're spending hours on TikTok because the stimulation is better. It's just, you have to make just a better social media, more addicting social media. The only way we can truly do this is coming up with something that is more addicting than Twitter and making it truly First Amendment based, saying, listen, we're going to have guidelines, but we're not going to ban people based off their political affiliation, based off of spreading a conspiracy theory, things like that. And then maybe if there's more stimulation to where people want to join the app because the social media app is so addicting, kind of like people leaving YouTube for TikTok. I'm sure a lot of kids 4 years ago, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, were spending hours on YouTube. Now those same kids are probably spending those hours on TikTok because it's more stimulating, it's more addicting. You have to create a more addicting app. It can't just mirror YouTube. It can't just mirror Twitter. It has to be better. Right? Because if it mirrors, there's no incentive for the liberals to leave Twitter. You guys know what I'm saying? So you're going to get the liberals staying on Twitter. You're going to get all the disenfranchised conservatives leaving, going to another social media. That's human nature. That's the problem. That's why we will never truly, at least in the near future, have an independent social media. You would have to make something that is more stimulating, that is more addicting than Twitter, than YouTube, for people to truly go on it, and that becomes extremely difficult. And Trump launching his social media app, it's way too divisive. Trump cannot be the one to launch a social media app. No liberals will join, so it'll just turn into an conservative type app. You guys get what I'm saying? You have to have both parties. Ideally, you would want everyone on one social media with the freedom of speech to be fully there via the internet. There are certain things you can't threaten to kill people and stuff like that. But when it comes to politics, you get the freedom of speech. Same thing with a video platform. Although I can't speak that badly about YouTube. It's their decision to ban people. Again, they are a private company. This is not illegal what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And what am I going to be a hypocrite? Oh, I upload a video a day on YouTube, but now I'm bad-mouthing YouTube. What am I supposed to do? I'm in a bad spot. Other people that don't upload to YouTube can talk bad about YouTube. I'm not going to hate on them. I'm not going to hate on that. I understand. They've said, listen, on YouTube, we don't care about the First Amendment. That's their decision. And they could ban my video. They could ban anybody's video who uploads and just come up with some sham excuse. They could do that. They could just say, we're banning your video just because we want to ban your video. And they can do that because they're a private company, unfortunately. So guys, a lot of stuff going on. The Russia-Ukraine thing, but just wanted to talk about this. I'm big into this censorship with social medias and things like that, and we had this video, very unique situation with Donald Trump actually going on these guys' podcasts, very young audience. And I think, if Bill O'Reilly posted something, did a podcast with Donald Trump, I don't really know if they would actually ban it. But the fact that this was at 5 million views, the fact that these guys reach a very young audience, it's DEFCON 4 for YouTube. And they're like, listen, we don't want Trump, having any say or influencing any of these young kids, or any Republican influencing any of these young kids. Donald Trump, that's like the one main Republican voice that could go on a younger podcast like this and in 24 hours get 5 million views. And a lot of that demographic is extremely young, and he's being painted in a good light by the Nelk guys. Yeah, they're going to have a DEFCON 4 on that. And again, Trump would never do that. But if I was one of the Nelk guys, I would go to Trump and I would say, listen, let's actually jam it down their throats and let's let them expose themselves. Let's do another interview with them. The next video they post, a Trump interview. Then they'll take that one down. Post another Trump interview. They'll take that one down. Just keep doing it and be like, we're trying to redo it. We're trying to get it. The last one got taken down. We're doing another one. And just see how bad it gets, because it's clearly... this is actually going to magnify it even more, to the point where if you do another one with Trump, it's going to get even more views, and then it's going to get taken down, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. So if I was the Nelk guys, I would ask, I'm guessing Trump won't do it. I mean, guys, you got to call out Donald Trump a little bit. Brother, if you're going to go on a podcast, you got to at least give him an hour or 2 hours, man. You can't be doing 30 minutes. That's like a long TV interview. Come on. Maybe it wasn't 30 minutes, but I had heard from someone close to me that it was 30 minutes. So I don't know exactly. I didn't watch it. I think it's on the Nelk website. So if you guys want to watch it, that's where that would be. But such an interesting thing. Dana White coming up with the idea. He likes these guys, and he told Trump, go on this podcast. And I don't even know if it was by accident, but Dana White, that was a brilliant move, because that gives Donald Trump the ability to reach really young people and influence them. And wow, what an absolute crazy situation. So guys, the censorship right now, it's crazy, and there's no right answer. I think you have to create a better social media app. You can't just mirror Twitter and say it's free speech, because liberals would have no incentive to leave it. Why would liberals leave it? Just conservatives would leave it, and then it would basically become this conservative type website or social media site, and where Twitter would even become more left-leaning, and then we would be divided via social media sites as well, which we kind of already are. But I think there are a lot of conservatives on Twitter, not as many as, a lot of conservatives are older people, so they're not going to have social media, but it would even become more divided if that happened. If an actual prominent social media site came up and rivaled Twitter, and you got all these conservatives to spend most of their time on there, the liberals would have no incentive unless the site was actually more addicting and was like better to use. Kind of like what happened with TikTok and YouTube. I like YouTube better than TikTok, but there are a lot of young kids that were spending hours on YouTube, and now they're spending those hours on TikTok because TikTok is more addicting. So guys, that's just my overall point on the whole censorship. We've got the Russia-Ukraine situation happening right now. It's basically similar. You've got Russia bombing Ukraine in multiple areas. Like I said, there was a tweet. The heaviest shilling happened last night in Kyiv. Very, very tough situation, but it looks like the Ukraine military is hanging in there right now. We'll have to see what ends up happening there between them, and we'll have to see. Apparently, Russia is mounting a new offensive in multiple places. And, this is, again, this is going to be a drawn-out war, it seems like a 4 to 6 month war between Russia and Ukraine. And then it comes to the point where, does this trigger World War III if Putin does capture Ukraine? That's the real problem. And again, what happens with China and Taiwan? So we've got that to worry about. But guys, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.